Maya stood outside the glass meeting room on the 24th floor and looked at the city below. Cars moved like small lights. People looked like tiny dots, but she would not use that word in her mind today. She was here for a serious reason, and she wanted everything to go right. She worked as a junior assistant in the finance department. Most days, she carried files, booked rooms, and checked calendars. She was smart and careful, but her job did not give her the right to speak in big rooms. At least that is what many people believed. Inside the meeting room, the air felt cold from the strong cooling system. A long table sat in the center with neat chairs around it. A screen on the wall showed the words "Final Review Meeting." A tray of tea and water sat at one end. The company was preparing for a major business deal, one that could change their future. Tom, the meeting manager, stood near the door with a clipboard. He had the habit of acting like a gatekeeper. He checked names, asked questions, and made people feel small if he did not recognize them. He believed his job was to protect the room from mistakes. He also believed he could tell who mattered by looking at them. At 9 in the morning, executives began arriving. They wore expensive suits and strong perfume. Their voices were loud and confident. Some laughed, some spoke about stock numbers, and some complained about traffic. Tom greeted them with big smiles and quick handshakes. Maya watched from the side, holding a folder with printed schedules. She had spent most of the night preparing the files. She did not sleep much, but she kept her face calm. She had learned that people respected calm faces, even when they did not know the struggle behind them. The elevator doors opened again. A man stepped out, walking slowly but firmly. His name was David. He wore a simple dark suit and plain shoes. His hair was neat, and he carried a thin folder. He did not wear a shiny watch. He did not carry a large laptop bag. He looked like someone who preferred purpose over display. Maya noticed something different about him. He was not nervous. He did not scan the area like someone who felt lost. He looked straight ahead, like he already knew the room, the people, and the outcome. David walked toward the meeting room. Tom stepped forward instantly. "Excuse me," Tom said in a firm voice. "This meeting is private." David stopped. "Yes, I am here for the final review." Tom looked at the folder in David's hand as if it was not good enough. "Your name?" Tom asked, not as a request but as a test. "David," he replied. "David Kahn." Tom scanned his clipboard. He moved his finger slowly down the list. Maya could see the list from her angle, and she could see David Kahn written there, clearly. But Tom's finger stopped too early. He did not reach the name. He lifted his head and narrowed his eyes. "I do not see you here," Tom said. Maya's heart tightened. She knew David was on the list. She wanted to speak. But she remembered the last time she corrected Tom. He had made her feel like a child in front of others. He had smiled and said, "Let the adults handle it." She swallowed the memory and stayed silent. David looked calm. "Please check again," he said, still polite. Tom's voice grew sharper. "Sir, I cannot let unknown visitors into this room. This is not a social visit. This is a high-level meeting." David's eyes did not change. "I understand. I am not a visitor." Tom raised his hand toward the hall, as if directing traffic. "You can wait in the lobby downstairs. Someone will contact you if needed." Several executives nearby heard the exchange. A few paused to look. One man frowned, as if annoyed by the delay. Another woman glanced at David and then looked away quickly, like she did not want to be involved. Maya felt heat rise in her cheeks. She did not like unfair moments. She had seen too many of them. Still, she did not move. Her job was fragile. Her salary paid her family bills. She told herself to be quiet. David stepped aside without arguing. He moved to a bench near the window and sat down. He placed his folder on his lap and looked at his phone. He did not look angry. He did not look embarrassed. He looked patient, like someone who knew time was on his side. Inside the room, the executives took their seats. Mr. Reed, the company owner, arrived a few minutes later. He was a tall man with silver hair and a serious face. He rarely smiled, but when he did, people felt like they had won something. Mr. Reed looked around the table. "We begin at 9:15, he said. "Where is our final partner representative?" A director answered. "He should be here any minute." Tom stood near the door and nodded quickly. "Everyone important is here, sir." Mr. Reed's eyes narrowed slightly. "Everyone important." The words hung in the air. Maya placed the meeting packets at each seat. She moved quietly, like a shadow. She heard the whispers. "This is the biggest deal of the year," one executive said. "If the funding group signs, we expand into 3 new regions," another replied. Maya knew the numbers. She had typed them, checked them, and printed them. $300 million. The amount felt too large to be real. It was a number that could build buildings, hire hundreds of people, and change the company's future. Mr. Reed checked his watch again. "We do not start without our partner," he said. The room grew tense. People shifted in their seats. Some tapped pens against paper. A few checked their phones under the table. Tom stood straighter, as if posture could fix the missing person. Maya felt the weight of the moment. She wondered if David in the hallway could be the missing person. The thought seemed strange and also possible. She did not know him, but she had learned that important people did not always look like the loud ones. Another 5 minutes passed. Mr. Reed stood up. "This is wasting time," he said. "I will check myself." Tom's smile cracked. "Sir, he may be delayed. Maybe traffic." Mr. Reed did not reply. He walked toward the door with firm steps. Maya followed behind, carrying an extra folder. She told herself she was only doing her job. Still, she wanted to see what would happen. Mr. Reed opened the door. His eyes scanned the hallway. He saw Tom first, then Maya, then he saw David sitting near the window. Mr. Reed's face changed instantly. The seriousness softened. His eyes widened slightly, and then a rare smile appeared. "David," Mr. Reed said warmly. "You are here. We have been waiting." David stood up calmly. "Good morning," he said. "I was told to wait." The hallway fell silent. Tom's mouth opened slightly, then closed. His eyes moved from David to Mr. Reed and back again. His face turned pale. Mr. Reed looked at Tom. The smile faded. "You told David to wait." Tom's voice came out small. "Sir, I did not know he was, I thought he was not on the list." Maya looked at the clipboard in Tom's hand. The list was right there. The name was right there. Maya wanted to speak again, but she stayed quiet. Mr. Reed's voice became cold. "David Kahn is not only on the list. He is the person who controls the funding approval. Without his signature, our deal is nothing but paper." A few executives who had gathered near the doorway gasped softly. Some looked down. Some looked embarrassed. One man cleared his throat, pretending he had not been paying attention. David remained calm. He did not raise his voice. He did not insult anyone. He simply adjusted his cuff and held his folder. Mr. Reed turned to David. "I apologize for this." David shook his head gently. "It is fine," he said. "I have learned that some doors open slowly. The only question is what people learn while the door stays closed." Maya felt something shift inside her. Those words were simple, but they carried weight. David did not sound bitter. He sounded clear. Mr. Reed looked at Tom again. "If you are responsible for managing access, you must manage it with care. Judging people by appearance is a costly habit." Tom swallowed hard. "Yes, sir." Mr. Reed stepped aside and gestured toward the room. "David, please." David nodded and walked forward. His steps were steady. He did not walk like someone trying to prove something. He walked like someone who already knew his value. As David entered, the room changed. The executives who had been impatient became quiet. Chairs shifted. People sat straighter. A few forced polite smiles. One woman stood up quickly and offered a greeting. "Welcome," she said. David nodded once and took his seat at the head side of the table, beside Mr. Reed. Maya placed David's packet in front of him. Her hands trembled slightly, but she controlled them. David looked up at her and gave a small respectful nod, as if she mattered too. It was a simple gesture, but it made Maya feel seen. Mr. Reed cleared his throat. "Now we begin," he said. David opened his folder. Inside were notes, charts, and a signed letter ready for the final stage. He looked at the room with calm eyes. "Before we sign anything," David said, "I want to ask a few questions. Not to delay, but to protect both sides." The executives listened closely. Maya stood near the wall, ready to assist, but she also listened. David's voice was steady and clear. He did not use complicated words. He used simple language that showed he understood the numbers deeply. He asked about timelines, safety plans, and how the company would handle risk if the market changed. He asked about worker training, customer trust, and long-term stability. Some executives looked surprised. They expected money talk only. David spoke about people as well as profit. Mr. Reed answered carefully. The directors offered details. The room became focused. It was no longer a show. It was a real discussion. Tom stayed near the door, silent. He looked smaller than before. His eyes avoided David. Maya noticed that David did not look at Tom with anger. He stayed focused on the deal. That focus felt powerful. Maya realized that real power did not always shout. Sometimes it simply stayed steady. As the meeting continued, Maya understood something important. The deal was huge, but the lesson was even larger. One moment at a door had revealed the truth of how people were judged inside this company. And the meeting had only just begun. The meeting room stayed quiet after David finished his first set of questions. The executives looked at one another, realizing this was not going to be a rushed approval. This was a serious conversation, and every answer mattered. Mr. Reed leaned back slightly in his chair. "Your questions are fair," he said. "This deal is not only about money. It is about trust." David nodded. Trust is built when plans are clear. Maya stood near the side table, holding her tablet. She followed every word. She noticed how David listened more than he spoke. When someone answered, he looked directly at them, not at his papers. That made people choose their words carefully. One director, Alan, spoke next. "We have prepared a long-term safety plan. It covers worker training and supplier checks." David looked at him calmly. "Who is responsible for enforcing it?" Alan paused. "The operations team." David waited. Alan continued, "With oversight from senior management." David nodded slowly. Oversight works best when names are attached, not just titles. The room grew quiet again. Mr. Reed stepped in. "We will assign a dedicated lead. That person will report directly to me." David wrote something down. "That is acceptable." Maya felt impressed. David was not attacking anyone. He was guiding the conversation towards stronger ground. As the discussion continued, Tom remained near the door. He felt invisible, yet fully exposed. Every calm question from David reminded him of the moment in the hallway. He realized the meeting was not just about numbers. It was about character. At one point, David asked for the financial projections to be displayed again. Maya moved quickly to the screen and adjusted the slides. Her hands moved smoothly, even though her heart beat fast. She was proud of the work she had done. David glanced at the screen. "These projections assume steady growth," he said. "What is the plan if growth slows?" A senior analyst answered, We have reserve funds set aside. David looked at the numbers. Reserves are helpful, but flexibility is better. I want to see options for adjustment without job losses. That sentence changed the room. Some executives shifted in their seats. Maya felt her throat tighten. She had not expected someone at this level to speak about jobs so directly. Mr. Reed nodded. We can include that. The meeting continued for over an hour. Every section of the deal was examined. David did not rush. He did not pressure. He made sure both sides were protected. During a short break, executives stepped out to make calls or stretch their legs. Maya refilled water glasses. David remained seated, reviewing his notes. Mr. Reed approached him quietly. I appreciate your approach, he said. Not everyone takes the time. David smiled lightly. Rushed deals often cost more later. Outside the room, Tom stood alone near the window. He replayed the morning again and again. He remembered how quickly he had judged David. He realized he had not even checked the full list. He had stopped early because he thought he already knew the important names. Maya walked past him to place new documents on the table near the door. Tom cleared his throat. Maya, he said softly. She stopped. Yes. I saw the name on the list, Tom admitted. I did not read far enough. Maya looked at him carefully. Sometimes the problem is not reading. Sometimes it is assuming. Tom lowered his head. You are right. When the break ended, everyone returned to their seats. The final section of the meeting focused on approval steps. David explained the process clearly. Once all points are agreed, he said, I will sign the approval document. Funds will be released in stages, not all at once. This protects both sides. The executives agreed. Mr. Reed smiled. That structure gives us discipline. David closed his folder. Then we are aligned. Maya watched as the final document was placed on the table. The pen rested beside it. The moment felt heavy, like history was being written quietly. David read the document one last time. He did not rush. When he was satisfied, he picked up the pen and signed his name. The sound of the pen touching paper felt louder than it was. The deal was approved. A sense of relief filled the room. Some executives smiled openly now. Others leaned back, finally able to breathe. Mr. Reed stood and extended his hand. Welcome to our partnership. David stood and shook it firmly. Thank you. As the meeting wrapped up, people began to leave. Conversations buzzed softly. The tension was gone, replaced by cautious excitement. David gathered his papers. As he walked toward the door, he paused when he reached Tom. Tom straightened. I owe you an apology, he said. His voice was steady but sincere. David looked at him calmly. What matters is what happens next. Tom nodded. I will do better. David gave a small nod and continued walking. Maya followed David out to guide him to the elevator. When they reached the doors, David turned to her. You handled the work well today, he said. Maya felt surprised. Thank you. I just did my job. David smiled. Doing your job with care is not small. The elevator arrived. David stepped inside. Before the doors closed, he looked back at the office floor one last time. He had come for a deal, but he knew something else had happened too. As the elevator descended, Maya returned to the meeting room. She helped collect papers and shut down the screen. She felt changed. She realized that value could be quiet, and strength could be calm. Tom stood nearby, watching her work. He felt something shift inside him. He understood that leadership was not about control at a door. It was about responsibility in moments that mattered. By the end of the day, the story of the meeting had already started to spread. Not in loud words, but in thoughtful looks and careful conversations. People had seen how quickly judgment could fail, and how patience could speak louder than power. And this was only the beginning of what that lesson would change. The next morning, the office felt different. The same desks, the same lights, the same coffee smell were there, but the energy had shifted. People spoke more softly. They listened more carefully. The meeting from the day before had left a mark. Maya arrived early, as usual. She placed her bag under her desk and opened her computer. As she checked her emails, she noticed several messages marked important. They were about follow-up steps for the new partnership. Her work was about to increase, but she did not feel afraid. She felt ready. Across the floor, Tom walked in quietly. His steps were slower than before. He did not greet people loudly. He did not stand near the meeting room door like a guard. Instead, he sat at his desk and stared at his screen for a moment before starting work. He kept thinking about David's words. What matters is what happens next. The sentence stayed with him. Tom knew he could not change the moment in the hallway, but he could change what followed it. Later that morning, Mr. Reed called for a short staff meeting. People gathered near the main conference area. Maya stood near the back, holding her notebook. Mr. Reed looked around the room. Yesterday was an important day, he said. Not only because of the deal, but because of what it showed us about how we work together. The room stayed silent. We cannot afford to judge people quickly, Mr. Reed continued. Every role matters. Every person matters. From today, access decisions will follow clear rules, not personal judgment. Tom felt his face grow warm, but he kept his head up. He knew the message was not meant to destroy him. It was meant to correct the system. Mr. Reed added, I am also creating a review group for process improvement. Maya will assist in coordinating it. Maya's eyes widened. She looked up, surprised. Some people turned to look at her. She felt nervous, but also proud. Thank you, sir, she said softly. After the meeting, Maya returned to her desk. Her hands shook slightly as she opened her notebook. This was new responsibility. She reminded herself to breathe and focus. Around noon, her phone rang. It was an unfamiliar number. Hello, Maya answered. This is David, the voice said calmly. Mr. Reed shared your contact. I wanted to thank you again for your support during the meeting. Maya straightened in her chair. I was just doing my work. David paused. Good work deserves recognition. I also wanted to ask if you could help coordinate the next review session. I prefer working with people who pay attention. Maya smiled. I would be happy to help. After the call ended, Maya sat quietly for a moment. She realized that being seen did not always come from speaking loudly. Sometimes it came from being steady when others were not. In the afternoon, Tom approached Maya's desk. He looked nervous. Maya, he said. May I speak with you? She nodded. Of course. Tom took a breath. I want to apologize. Not just for yesterday, but for how I have treated you before. I thought authority meant control. I was wrong. Maya looked at him carefully. Thank you for saying that. Tom continued, I am trying to learn. If you see me falling back into old habits, tell me. Maya nodded. Learning works both ways. That evening, as the office lights dimmed, Maya packed her bag with a lighter heart. She walked past the meeting room and glanced at the glass door. Yesterday, it had been a place of tension. Today, it felt like a place of growth. Across town, David sat in a quiet hotel room, reviewing notes from the meeting. He thought about the company, the people, and the future partnership. He was satisfied with the deal, but more satisfied with the lesson it had revealed. David had grown up watching people underestimate him. He had learned early that anger wasted energy. Patience built power. Over time, he had chosen calm as his strength. The next week, David returned to the office for a follow-up session. This time, Tom stood at the entrance with a clear list and a respectful tone. Good morning, David, Tom said. Welcome. David nodded. Good morning. There was no tension this time. Just professionalism. Inside the room, Maya guided the session with confidence. She shared timelines, assigned tasks, and noted questions. People listened to her. They trusted her. Mr. Reed watched from the side with approval. He saw how quickly the environment had changed. One moment of correction had created many moments of improvement. During a short break, David spoke to Mr. Reed privately. "You have capable people here," David said. "They only needed room to grow." Mr. Reed nodded. Sometimes leadership is about stepping back. As the partnership moved forward, the company began to change in visible ways. Meetings started on time. Voices were heard more evenly. Decisions were made with more care. Tom became known not as a blocker, but as a guide. He made sure rules were followed, and he treated everyone with respect. Some people noticed the change and followed his example. Maya continued to rise in her role. She learned quickly and worked with confidence. She was no longer afraid to speak when something mattered. She knew her voice had value. Months later, the partnership reached its first milestone. The company expanded responsibly. New teams were hired. Training programs were improved. The deal did more than bring money. It brought balance. On the day of the milestone celebration, Mr. Reed gave a short speech. "This success came from many hands," he said. "But it began with a moment that reminded us who we want to be." Maya stood in the crowd and remembered the hallway, the closed door, and the calm man waiting. David stood near the back, listening quietly. He did not seek attention. He did not need it. When the applause ended, David prepared to leave. As he walked toward the exit, Maya and Tom stood nearby. "Thank you," Tom said, "for giving us a chance to learn." David smiled. "Growth starts with honesty." Maya added, "You changed more than a deal." David looked at her. "You did that too." David left the building and stepped into the city air. The deal was complete. The lesson remained. Inside the office, work continued. People moved with more awareness. Doors opened more easily. Judgments came more slowly. And the story of the meeting lived on, not as a rumor, but as a reminder that true power does not stand at the door deciding who enters. True power waits, listens, and leads by example.